The journey begins, we're kind of retracing from Sydney back to the mountains, and along the way I'll be thinking about the journey that a man called John Lotsky made in 1834, travelling from Sydney to, as he called it, the Monero or the Manaroo. And along the way he learnt about the Aboriginal people of New South Wales, and down in my country in the Snowy Mountains in the Manaroo he even witnessed a corroboree performed by women of the Manaroo. And so we're heading into Ngarigu country, and Naya Jackie, Naya Namachingatong, Naya Ngarigu. We are now about 70 or so kilometres from what is now Canberra. This is really the beginning of the plains that lead into the Monero country, Monero, Manaroo. It's now called the Monero, and this is the area where Lotsky said this is beautiful farming country. This is the area where by the time he came through there were very few Aboriginal people. A lot of the Aboriginal people in the 1830s in this area had already become part of the pastoral industry that was developing through the squatters coming out into this area. The world had really changed, and so it wasn't until he got up into the mountains where my people are, the Ngarigu, that he came across people who were still more or less on their own country doing what they'd always done, but they were being impacted upon by the squatters. So this is really the beginning, this area here. So just sort of show this country area. We've just passed Woologarang Creek, so there is a word for a place in the language of this area. It could be a word cognate with my own language, Woolly, Woologarang. It could be something to do with the frog, Woolly Woolly. We've climbed to 724 or so feet. Here is Woologarang Creek again. This is sheep country because it was this beautiful open plains, and the Aboriginal people in my family became involved in the cattle and the sheep industry. My great-grandmother Olive Thomas, who was born up at the ravine near Lobbs Hole, near Kyandra, up in the high country, married a man from western New South Wales, from Hay, and went out to Hay and lived on a sheep station until her children were quite small, and then he had some kind of maybe a stroke or something, and the story is that he was put into Goulburn Asylum, but we don't really know what happened. He just disappeared. His name was William Spear, and after that my great-grandmother Olive went to Sydney, and her life changed completely, but she always continued to go back down to the high country. But sheep and cattle became our I guess lifestyle and our way of making a living, and we were also, because of that, horse people. And I've often thought maybe the women in my family were the women from Snowy River. There's the legend of the man from Snowy River, but maybe it really was the women from Snowy River. We know that all across Australia, Aboriginal women in the cattle industry, in the sheep industry, were involved as stock people. They were drovers, camp cooks. They did everything that any man did, and were great riders. And my great-grandmother Olive was a wonderful rider and loved the wild horses. She said that she used to catch brumbies and break them in, and yeah. We're up at the Sentinels at the top of Thredbo, looking out towards where Kunaminamaji is just over the hill here. Behind me are the Sentinels, which are our ancestor rocks that look right out across the valley towards Ngunnawal country, from Ngarigu country to Ngunnawal country. And this spot here, if you just pan around, is the area that is a very important women's site. And this is a place that my ancestors would come to conduct important women's ceremonies. So around here is a very important women's area. And you can see when you look at it, it looks like a kind of birthing place, or a place about birth and reproduction and women's business.